and what to do. U.S. warplanes flying to South Korea overnight to take part in bombing drills just days after the Kim Jong-un regime fired a missile over Japan. The move follows President Trump's tweet yesterday saying, quote, the U.S. has been talking to North Korea and paying them extortion money for 25 years. Talking is not the answer. While some question whether that means military action and nothing else, Defense Secretary Jim Mattis says that's not the case.
You know, we're never out of diplomatic solutions. We continue to work together and look for all the areas that we can collaborate with. Already very strong collaboration. We always look for more. We're never complacent.
His comment comes as the latest Fox News poll shows that nearly 60% of the country is concerned about going to war with North Korea. Now, 40% are not worried about it. While President Trump has taken a hard line on North Korea, the same poll shows that 42% of people say he hasn't been tough enough. Look at that. Joining us now is former commander of the USS Cole, Commander Kirk Lippold. Commander, your thoughts on the somewhat different messages that you hear from the President and his Secretary of Defense.
Well, good morning, Dagan. I actually, in some ways, don't think it's that different of a message. What the President is really saying is, talk's cheap, it calls for actions. Those actions can, in fact, dovetail quite nicely and be diplomatic. When you look at the breadth and depth of sanctions that we really should be putting into place against China, that's what's going to make the difference with North Korea. That will bring North Korea to heel. So I don't think we're looking at military options right off the bat. And Secretary Mattis is absolutely correct. Diplomacy is and still should be the primary tool on the table.
Commander, do you expect to see any development with the U.S.-Japanese alliance after the North Koreans launched a missile over Japan? Do you think there's going to be any weapons sales or policy development or joint exercises that are increased in the future as a result?
I don't think you will see any. I think the alliance with Japan right now is very strong. I think that you may see it bolstered because we're actually going to probably start dusting off the plans for how we're going to deal with North Korea and making sure that the Japanese and the United States, in coordination with South Korea, have got a strong alliance to deal with them effectively, especially as diplomatic sanctions hopefully get put into place with China to be able to bring them and make them heel North Korea.
Commander, it's Mike Murphy. The most recent missile launch by North Korea over Japan, did that kind of bolster President Trump in a sense where now if he does act, there's reason for it because there's an actual threat to our ally Japan over there. So if North Korea gets too aggressive, doesn't it make the President's decision, or if it comes to that, to act that much easier?
Well, I think, Mike, when you really look at it, it may not make it easier, but it's certainly going to lay out the groundwork for the international community to realize that North Korea is, in fact, destabilizing the entire region. China continues to support them. And when you look at the arc of stability that's being created from North Korea, China, through India, Pakistan, Afghanistan, into Iran, North Korea is at the tip right now. They're the ones that are threatening the United States with the offensive use of nuclear weapons. And that's an unacceptable threat that the United States should have to live under.
Commander, it's Caitlin Huey-Burns. I was struck by that poll that showed that more people thought the president should be more forceful, and certainly Trump agrees with that. He has said that he could be tougher. How could he be tougher? What else could he say? I mean, he came under fire for that fire and fury comment a few weeks ago.
Well, I think when you look at the fire and fury, let's set that aside for just a minute. Realistically, the president should be developing a comprehensive and in-depth set of sanctions, and they are focused not on North Korea, but on China. They're the principal country that has aided and abetted everything that North Korea is doing today. The technical aspects, the economic aspects, everything that is allowing that program, both ballistic missile and nuclear, to continue to move forward. China is the key. They deny it, they're not. They need to be called to account for it. And when you really look at it, those sanctions should be comprehensive, put on the table, and tell China this isn't going to be a piecemeal approach, but in fact a very, very effective, in-depth, all at once to take their breath away.
Commander, would that be something that we did unilaterally with China? Because Andrew Peek and I have talked about that continually. We've had some sanctions, secondary sanctions on like the Bank of Dandong, which I think happened in late June, but not on some of your biggest financial players in China, say the Bank of China, for example.
I think that when you look at it, Dagan, they're going to have to be coordinated with other nations, especially the ones that are going to live with the consequences immediately. The largest trading partners with China, South Korea, Japan, some of the others in the Asian region there, they're going to have to be notified. And I think given the threat that continues to grow from North Korea, they're going to realize that the sanctions are what are going to impact China. China is then going to force North Korea to stop these tests and to get this nuclear program underway. The other aspect you have to consider is everything that North Korea does is being shared with Iran. So that in and of itself is a destabilizing force for the Middle East.
But, Commander, as you know, the trouble is that a lot of those nations in the Pacific Rim would prefer to have great economic ties with China, vice a major sanctions fight over a threat that is, at best, a long-distance issue and, at worst, kind of a low probability issue. So how do you convince Japan and others that they should escalate a trade war with China to sort of prevent a low probability crisis?
The consequences of not dealing with the problem today and by putting those sanctions into effect are going to allow this to develop at a point where next thing you know, North Korea is going to wake up one morning, they're going to have solid-fueled ballistic missile rockets with miniaturization of nuclear weapons. We are still unsure of the status of how the miniaturization is going, but why wait for that threat to appear? At some point, we need to tell all of our trading partners and allies over there, this offensive threat is not acceptable to the United States. And if we need to, we will go it alone when it comes to an economic impact on Japan and how it'll affect our economy, because the consequences of doing nothing long-term are too drastic, not only with North Korea, but what it portends for Iran as well in the Middle East.
Commander Lippold, it was good to see you as always. Take care. Please come back soon.
Thank you, Dagan. Great to be on again.